All right, today we're going to tackle a huge challenge in the world of construction. We're talking about a completely different way to look at and manage some of the most massive, complex projects you can possibly imagine.
So, let me just ask you this. How do you manage a project that doesn't go up, but just keeps going outwards? Think about a brand new highway, or a pipeline stretching across the country, or even a railway. These are what we call linear projects, and they can stretch for hundreds of miles. You've got teams and equipment spread out over this enormous area. It's a logistical puzzle like no other.
And this unique puzzle, well, it creates what the industry calls the linear project challenge. And it's a problem that can totally break your standard traditional planning methods.
Yeah, here's the real heart of the issue. Your standard project plan is great at telling you when something has to happen. But for a pipeline or a highway, knowing where it happens is just as crucial, if not more so. So what happens? You've got teams trying to track time on one sheet of paper and their location on a completely separate map. It's a recipe for massive confusion out on the actual job site.
Okay, so if the old way just doesn't cut it, what's the alternative, right? This problem literally forced planners to come up with a whole new way of thinking about these kinds of projects.
And that solution is called the linear scheduling method. And honestly, the genius of it is just how simple the core idea is. Instead of having a schedule over here and a map way over there, this technique just merges them. It puts time on one axis and distance on the other, creating this single super intuitive chart of the entire project, from beginning to end.
Now, the technical name for this is a time chainage or time location plan. But don't get tripped up by the jargon. Chainage is basically just a fancy industry word for the distance along the project's path. The only thing you need to remember is that it's a plan built on time and location, together as one. So that's the big idea. But how do you actually use this concept in the real world? Well, that is where we introduce a piece of software called Trimble Tilos. Tilos is the specialized software that really brings this whole linear scheduling method to life. And it's made by Trimble, which, if you're in the industry, you know is a huge name in construction and engineering tech, so you know it's built on a rock-solid foundation of real-world expertise. And what does it do? Well, at its core, Tilos is designed for one thing: to give you a simplified, visual look at your entire, sprawling project. It's all about cutting through the noise and the complexity to give everyone, from the manager in the office to the crew on the ground, a clear picture of what's happening, where it's happening, and when. But how does it actually pull that off? Let's pop the hood for a minute and break down its key capabilities to see how it all works. First up, and this is really the foundation of the whole system, schedule analysis and visualization. This is all about seeing your project plan in a totally new light. So this means you can get a simple snapshot of the project status anytime you want. By combining time and distance into that one intuitive chart we talked about, it empowers the entire construction team to see and, this is the important part, to understand the plan instantly. This isn't just a tool for the planners, it's for the people actually doing the work. But hey, a plan is just a pretty picture if you can't track your progress against it, right? And that brings us to the next big capability: linear planning and production monitoring.
This is where the plan really becomes a living, breathing document. Teams can add their completion data right there on the chart. Tilos then uses that info to forecast the impact of all the work that's left, so you can spot potential delays before they become massive problems. It lets you see, side by side, how your plan is holding up against what's really happening on site.
All right, now for something that's super specific but absolutely critical for these big civil engineering projects: optimal mass handling. So what in the world is mass haulage? Well, picture this. You're basically moving mountains. You're digging up thousands of tons of dirt in one spot and using it as fill in another spot, maybe miles and miles away. Across a 100-mile project, this is an unbelievable logistical nightmare. Tilos is actually designed to coordinate this whole complex ballet of machinery and material, making sure everything gets where it needs to be right when it's needed. Okay, so you take that clear visualization, you add in the real-time progress monitoring, and you throw in the smart materials management. What's the ultimate payoff? It all boils down to one simple but incredibly powerful idea: project clarity. You know, there's a line from the source material that just nails it perfectly. It says, "The plan is presented in a way that construction teams can quickly view and understand." And that's the whole ballgame, isn't it? It's about transforming this overwhelming complexity into something clear and actionable for the people on the front lines. So let's bring it all back to this one central idea. You have this massive project, countless moving parts, dozens of teams, miles and miles of terrain. Tilos cuts through all of that noise to bring every single element together into one single unified view. And that's not just a convenience, it's a fundamental shift that reduces risk and prevents incredibly costly mistakes.
And that leaves us with one final thought to consider. Whether you're in construction or not, is your project plan, whatever it might be, is it clear enough for everyone on your team to understand, just at a glance? Because ultimately, that kind of shared clarity, that's what really drives success.